Ghana is listed amongst a total of 147 member states of the United Nations, which voted overwhelmingly in favor of a resolution demanding Russia withdraws its troops from Ukraine. Today marks exactly a year of fighting and bloodshed as tensions continue to escalate between the two countries. President Akufo-Addo at the 77th UN General Assembly exclaimed how the unending war is affecting countries such as Ghana.
By 2021, COVID-19 had pushed Africa into the worst recession for half a century. A slump in productivity and revenues, increased pressures on spending, and spiraling public debts confronted us without relent. As we grappled with these economic challenges, Russia's invasion of Ukraine burst upon us, aggravating an already difficult situation. It is not just the dismay that we feel at seeing such deliberate devastation of cities and towns in Europe in the year 2022. We're feeling this war directly in our lives in Africa. Every bullet, every bomb, every shell that hits a target in Ukraine hits our pockets and our economies in Africa. The economic turmoil is global, with inflation as the #1 enemy this year. It hit a 40-year high in the United States and United Kingdom in recent months. There's record inflation in the Eurozone. Several African countries have inflation rates surging 3 to 4 times higher than what they were just 2 years ago. In Ghana, we're experiencing the highest inflation for 21 years. The high costs of food are hurting the poor, especially the urban poor, the most.
Now, Blessed Soga is with the Joy News International Desk and joins us with details. Blessed, we know the United Nations has 192 member states, but we understand not all countries voted in favor, correct? Mute so we can hear what you're telling us, and let's understand why not all the countries of the United Nations, voted in favor. All right, so what we're hearing is that some countries, not all member states of the United Nations, voted to get the UN to pass a resolution asking Russia to withdraw its troops from Ukraine. It's a year since the fight in Ukraine started. Now, these countries overwhelmingly voted in favor of a resolution demanding that Russia withdraws its troops from Ukraine. There's been a year of fighting and bloodshed as tensions continue to escalate between these two countries. President Akufo-Addo has been complaining about how the war is affecting Ghana. Many countries have been speaking on this. China has asked for a truce in this. The United States and other European countries have been condemning Russia for the invasion of Ukraine. The United States of America believe that Russia is losing on the war front. But China, which is an ally of Russia, is asking for a truce in this war. Blessed Soga is with the Joy News International Desk, and he joins us live now with some details. Blessed, we know that the United Nations has some 192 member states, but we are learning that not all countries voted in favor of this resolution, correct?
Well, that's true. Actually, the resolution drafted by Ukraine in consultation with its allies had 141 countries voting in favor of that resolution. Now, 7 countries, Belarus, Nicaragua, Russia, Syria, North Korea, and also some other African countries, including Mali, which has some special military arrangements with Russia, voted in favor of that resolution. Now, there was many as 32 abstentions, and of course, some of the names prominent on that include the likes of India, South Africa, and that's happening because of that special alliance these group of nations have with Russia under the BRICS arrangement. So in all, 141 voting in favor, and that list actually includes Ghana. Then we have 7 abstaining, and obviously we know that would have Russia, Syria, and North Korea on that special list, and Mali as a result of that special arrangement with the Russian military forces. So in all, that's how the picture is looking like. But for other African countries that are voting against or abstaining in all out of the arrangement, we have South Africa on that list because of the BRICS. And that's what we know so far about the resolution.
Do we know whether these demands are contained in this resolution?
Well, basically, the resolution is asking for a withdrawal of the Russian troops with a call for some, quote, comprehensive, just and lasting peace, given what's happening when it comes to the Russian-Ukraine war. The resolution is also adding that it will constitute a significant contribution, by strengthening international peace and security, if we have all of these countries coming around and reaffirming their support for Ukraine's independence and territorial integrity.
But it appears this resolution is not binding. Why so?
That's simply because what's happening now does not have the full backing of the UN Security Council. Looking at the Chapter 6, 7 of the UN Charter, obviously the UN Security Council, but the architecture of the UN has an upper hand in determining such matters. Once Russia has vetoed their position at that level, whatever decision is being taken at this level will simply remain one of those normal diplomatic tools that 141 countries will recognize. But as to the implementation or making it effective, there'll be a challenge simply because of the abstention of China, which is also on that UN Security Council, and Russia itself, which will always veto whatever decision that will be taken at that highest level. This explains why, of course, you have some of these member states adopting this resolution just as a way of sending that message across to the Putin regime.
Now, given the effect of the war on Ghana, some international partners are pledging support for the country. Let's start with the United States government.
Well, the U.S. is very firm on that belief that Putin is losing the war. In fact, the United States ambassador to Ghana, Ambassador Palmer, Virginia, indicated in a statement that they are putting in place some mitigation measures to the tune of $2.5 billion, which is being set aside by the U.S. government in support of countries such as Ghana and other African nations that are being affected by this war. We can listen to it.
Today marks 1 year since Russia launched its brutal, full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russia's horrifying violence has killed thousands and destroyed entire cities. Here in Ghana, Putin's war has driven up prices for fertilizer, food, and fuel. Ghana has been a real leader on the UN Security Council, standing firm in opposition to Putin's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. Putin and his enablers believe that might makes right, but they're wrong. They're losing. Since last year, nations of the world have united to stand strong with Ukraine. We cannot let a small country get stomped on by a larger neighbor. If Russia stops fighting and withdraws, the war ends. If Ukraine stops fighting, Ukraine ends. The American and Ghanaian people stand proudly with Ukraine. We stand for freedom. We stand for democracy. We stand against bullies. We are united with Ukraine.
Now, for the European Union, they are pledging some 1.6 billion euros to ensure what they describe as food security.
Being the European Union, we have undertaken to alleviate the consequences, especially when it comes to food security, of the blockade organized by Russia. I think it's very important to remember that Russia organized the blockade of exportation of grain and fertilizer from Ukraine, and this is one of the causes of the huge impact at international level of the cost of food, staple and fertilizer. And the European Union has organized what we call EU lane, safe lane, in order to maintain the exportation of grains and fertilizer, besides the UN as well, who have engaged in the so-called Black Sea Initiative. Black Sea Grain Initiative. So while condemning the invasion, while supporting the Ukrainian state to face the aggression, the European Union has maintained its attention on other aspects of the conflict or the consequences of the conflict, which can impact the international community, especially Africa. And I have to say that when it comes to Africa, the European Union has, on top of that, mobilized 1.6 billion euros in terms of food security for the most affected region. Horn of Africa, Sahel region, Southern Africa, and Ghana benefited out of it as well.
The Munich Security Conference is just rounding off, and that dominated discussions, the war. And what's unique to us here in Africa, and especially Ghana, is about the intervention that was made by our president and his commentary on what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. He seems to suggest that the West has turned all of its focus onto Ukraine, leaving the other side, which is Africa, to suffer the disruptions in supply chains, and we're seeing the consequent effect on our economy here in Ghana as well.
No, I think it's a misperception, because as I said, when the food crisis erupted across the globe, European Union has maintained its attention to other corners of the globe. Not everything is related to Ukraine, including when it comes to the EU. The EU has maintained this dialogue with the countries of Middle East and Northern Africa, and is maintaining its attention and focus interest to support African nations to weather from this. So we have mobilized, as I said, 1.6 billion euros. It's not nothing.